Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalrin, and in today's video I want to change the topic just a little bit. For a while I've been talking about BFA and all of the updates and the allied races. Hell, right now I'm actually a Nightborn Rogue, and I'm trying to test out the racials, see if I like him, see if that's something I'll stick with. Because Blood Elf racial is still really strong, but the shoulder pads though, the shoulder pads look ridiculous. Besides the race change, the actual pre-order, not even a pre-patch, but the pre-order fiasco seems to have quieted down. Everybody has 4 extra slots, the in-game services are actually going through, like race changes and carrier boosts, and it seems like people are leveling and they're trying out the classes and trying to get the allied races with heritage armor up as soon as possible, which is something that I will be doing as of Thursday, which today is actually my day off from streaming. So I'll probably end up doing that. But with all the BFA stuff coming around, there's a lot to talk about, a lot of updates to discuss. But before we really dive into that, let's roll it back to the World of Warcraft Classic. Let's roll it back to the vanilla and talk about an interesting topic I found online. The topic basically goes along these lines, and they're talking about paladins. Is it possible to allow retribution paladins and protection paladins to actually be a thing in Classic WoW? And a lot of you guys that are playing concurrent game, you're thinking protection paladins are probably really good, and red pallies are honestly slamming in PvP and PvE. What's the problem here? Back in vanilla, and I love to say this mostly with an old man voice. Let me do this here. Back in vanilla, a lot of classes back in the day simply didn't have specializations that were viable. The game was just such a brand new idea, and I don't think a lot of the talent options were put well together. For example, tanks like a protection paladin actually can benefit from things like spell power, which is the weirdest thing ever because spell power would be mostly a mage or a warlock skill. And when you're talking about mage warlock skills and talking about hunters had mana. The game was all over the place and only a few specializations were actually viable. I found a Reddit post and I'm gonna go over it very quickly to kind of give you the overview of which specs, which classes were viable, and basically how will you gear yourself. It's hard to find the validity of every single forum post, but a lot of these forum posts do ring the same bells in terms of, hey, this spec is good, hey, this spec is bad, this class was good for this class was good for that. The only way I will know 100% sure which was good, which was bad, is if I were to go and play it, and I'm not really on that private server life, so let's get into it. They say the warrior, arms is a PvP spec, fury is a good DPS if you have consumables, but rare. Protection was a viable spec. For priest, you were mostly holy, shadow was kinda low on damage, and discipline was a luxury. Mage, you weren't really a frost mage, you were really an arcane mage with frost based abilities for MC and BWL, but then you went fire, so frost was a useless spec, 70% of everyone's damage. Rogue, you always combat, assassination was useless, subtlety was a PvP spec, sorta kinda. Warlock, you always had a hybrid build, either a Affliction Destruction with Shadow Mastery and Ruin, or Demonology Destruction, Demonic Sacrifice and Ruin, but you weren't ever a full Affliction, full Destruction, or full Demonology. Demonology being somewhat useful in PvP here and there. Druid, the only viable spec was Resto. Feral Druids for DPS was 70% of everyone's damage, so bad. Balanced Druids were 7% of everyone's damage, so bad. They both brought some interesting buffs, but in most cases they just simply didn't bring the DPS. Same thing goes for the Tank Druid. Shaman, the only viable spec is Resto. Enhancement and Elemental simply deal 70% of everyone's damage, don't provide any buffs. Hunter, Beast Mastery is useless and bad. Marksman is the best DPS spec. Survival was a PvP spec mainly. Could possibly with full Nags gear have potential, but nobody ever tried it. And the forum poster on Reddit also says they never played Alliance, so they never got to experience Paladin, which I think goes pretty well back into the person's original forum post. Hey, can't we make Prot and Ret kind of maybe viable in Vanilla Classic? When you're talking about making vanilla servers, I feel like the first thing that should be is keeping it as vanilla as possible. And I think Blizzard themselves also dedicated to that. They even made a forum post on, I guess it's a blue post actually, but I saw it on Wowhead, where they talked about how they're trying to bring back vanilla servers through such an archaic system. They're basically bringing back all the different old school hardware, old school software, all the old drivers, trying to basically Frankenstein it back. They're not trying to remake Frankenstein, they're trying to find where they buried him, find the parts, put them together, zap him alive, and see if they can kind of clean him up. Like, Blizzard themselves are committed, as far as they say, to make it as authentic of a vanilla experience as possible. Use old hardware and old structures of how the game worked back then, because the game right now and the game back then are not the same, and even they really do see this. They really realize it. So the fact that Blizzard are taking all that effort just to bring back authentic, true vanilla experience, I mean, it's just inspiring. And I feel that if they're gonna put that much effort, they really gonna want to make it as vanilla as possible. So whether you or me want it to be a vanilla or want it to be like a modified vanilla, I feel that with Blizzard's actions, they are gonna make it as vanilla as possible, because the whole point is not for, I mean, I guess to bring in new consumers and have more people try it, but the whole big push for vanilla servers weren't for new consumers. Most new consumers are happy with Legion or BFA that's upcoming. It's for the old school players that have been pushing the private server thing for a while. So it's really for the old school players that want to play the good old expansions. What I'm trying to say is, it's probably going to be hard to even convince Blizzard to make the servers more, I guess, acceptable, more leaning towards a player that wants to play a specialization that normally they play. Like, say you want to play Enhancement Shaman and they're just not viable in Arena, you're basically forced to heal. I do think, however, there is a silver lining though. I feel that way back in Vanilla, what do we have? We have Thoughtbot. I think that should say everything. Back in Vanilla, we didn't have the network of people we had. We didn't have the knowledge. We didn't have the tools in order to figure out how to play our specializations to its full potential. In Legion right now, there's so many ways of going about it, from simming to Discord groups to theory crafting and people checking out the PTR and trying different builds, spending hours and hours just trying new methods of play. There's so many people that are putting in effort in order to figure out how to play these specs to their full potential. And I feel like with the tools that we use to network together through Discord, YouTube videos, and Google, through the tools of just simply gathering information, as well as simulation, I feel like even if we were to get a current player to play vanilla WoW, I think if you put a lot of heads together, you'll find a way to play specialization even if they're bad specs. And I feel like there's just so many secrets that back in the day, not everybody unlocked, but I feel that today's player and today's player community could probably find a way. For example, there's a story for Soda Poppin' if you watch him, and I don't know if you're a fan of him or not, but he talked about playing on a private server. Name won't be mentioned, which server. He talked about playing on a private server and how he wanted to play Feral, and him talking about how back in the day Ferals weren't viable, so all you could do is play Resto. But somebody on the private server, it's a vanilla server, figured out some items they could use, some trinkets or rings or enchants, and a specific Feral build that made Feral actually a viable and a decent contender for top DPS. But it was made for a very, very ridiculously complicated rotation where you have to shift in and out of your Feral form a lot for the energy boost, for the ability, and then there's a timer to it and everything. But it's a cool way that the game is still the same, but somebody found a different way to play a specialization in that game to make it viable. And I think with that kind of idea, with that kind of results, with the current information we have right now, communities and tools, I honestly think we could take specializations that were atrocious, specializations that were actually terrible back in the day, and make them actually viable and actually playable in the new classic WoW. But this is where I kind of leave it off for you guys to decide for yourselves. What are your thoughts? For anybody that played back in vanilla, do you think it's possible to put the tools of today, to put the communities of today, and find ways to play these specializations that used to play back in the day? Or would you rather, as somebody who is thinking of checking out classic WoW, would you rather have it a modified World of Warcraft, where they modify the specs in order to make them actually accessible for a lot more people, so that a new player can actually try and maybe play your Assassination Rogues, your Subtlety Rogues, even though back in vanilla they weren't viable, so that you could actually enjoy what you used to play back in the day? I personally think we shouldn't. I think we should leave it as vanilla, because the whole point of vanilla WoW is to get that vanilla experience. And if part of vanilla experience is more about the class, not about the spec, then it should be more about vanilla experience. But that's up to you guys. Let me know in the comments below what are your thoughts. If you guys enjoyed this video and discussion and want to see more vanilla WoW classic discussions, mostly classic WoW discussions, go ahead and give the video a like. Likes allow my videos to grow and allow them to reach a wider audience, so that'd be very much appreciated. If you guys enjoy this kind of videos, updates, BFA stuff, 1.55, 1.1 duels, go ahead and hit subscribe in order to catch all the latest content from the channel. And if you guys enjoy the live streams, which we're not having one today, today's my day off, but tomorrow will be a 5v5 1v1 Alliance EU duel. So if you guys want to catch the live streams, go ahead and hit the notification bell down next to the subscription button down below to catch the next stream that will be up. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I'd like to see some discussion in the comments, specifically from vanilla guys and people that are even thinking of trying vanilla. So if you guys could, please feel free to populate that area. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see all of you guys in another video.